Hello BookTube, I'm here with a tag. Now, this tag is the Penguin Classics tag, and it was kind of live on BookTube in the spring of 2020. So why am I doing it now? And oh, lovely Jay Shay actually tagged me at the time, and I never managed to do it because I couldn't quite face like making some of the choices that it asked you to make. But the reason I'm doing it now is because this tag was created by Steve Donoghue. And I've noticed that Steve's back for 2021 after his little Christmas New Year break, but he's not restarted doing his Penguin Classic a day. And I'm feeling cheated, and I'm really hoping that he will restart. So I thought I'll do this tag and see if that kind of helps prompt him into it. Who knows? It's a hint. It's a hint. Put it that way. So, Penguin Classics. The prompt number 1 is Penguin Classics are the best reprint volumes in the whole world. So says Steve, and I'm inclined to agree with him. How many do you currently own? Well, one of the reasons why I didn't do this tag sooner is because I knew it was going to involve me climbing all over the house, finding different bookshelves to try and find how many. I think 107, but don't hold me to that. It's not necessarily accurate. Also, I had a bit of difficulty kind of defining what is a Penguin Classic. I went for ones that actually call themselves Penguin Classics or Penguin Modern Classics. But did you know? Now, here's the thing. Did you know that Penguin used to do Puffin Classics? Puffin's like their children's imprint, and so this one, The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane, an American kind of classic, but it was a Puffin classic. The Prisoner of Zenda, that comes up as a Puffin classic. Do I count those? No, I didn't count those. Then they used to do Pelican classics as well. So Pelican used to be like the sort of serious non-fiction sort of bit of Penguin. So this is Hobbes Leviathan, and it's a Pelican classic. So didn't count any of those that I've got. Just to make things even more complicated. So the original Penguin Classics were set up to do like translated fiction, like starting with the classics, as in Latin and Greek stuff, and translated fiction, things like Tolstoy or Flaubert or whatever. So, back in the day, things like Jane Austen or Elizabeth Gaskell were instead in the Penguin English Library. Now, all of those things that were in the Penguin English Library with the lovely orange spines, it's my teenage years there, they're all now in the Penguin Classics Black Spine editions instead. But so I didn't count. I've got loads of these, but I didn't count any of them. Lots of mine, the orange spine is no longer orange because I've had them so long and love them so dearly. A further complication, there used to be a Penguin Poets. So this is my book of Keats, and was the Penguin Poets. Was that so that now they'd be Penguin Classics, and then they did the Penguin Poetry Library. So it's not so easy, but I think 106, and then I've discounted all of those ones. Now that kind of leads naturally into prompt number 2, because prompt number 2 is penguins evolved around 70 million years ago. Thank you, Steve, for that interesting fact. What's your history with Penguin Classics? So I'm a penguin woman to the core. Somewhere, if I were a Brighton Rock, you were to slice me, rather than seeing, Brighton Rock in the middle of that stick of rock, you would see puffins and penguins and even pelicans kind of printed there. Puffins were the books of my childhood, and then I moved on to sort of Penguin Classics and the Penguin English Library. That's what more can I say? Although I've got 100 more of the things and all the other ones, I've never set out to collect them. They're just part of my life, I suppose. which is why I've been really enjoying Steve's Penguin Classic a Day series, because there's so many that I don't know, but also ones that I know and love kind of pop up from time to time, and that's such fun. Prompt number 3. The Penguin Classic logo is of course a penguin. Yes, well, obviously, the world's most famous flightless bird. What's a classic that just didn't take flight for you? That's a really good question. And with a bit of thought, I've decided to say Proust. La Recherche de Temps Perdu. I've read Swan's Way, or The Way by Swan, depending on which sort of translation you're reading, which is kind of, well, you can chop In Search of Lost Time up in various different ways, but it's kind of like the first 3 books, and then kind of makes the first volume maybe. And I could feel the quality. I was glad that I was reading it. I was glad that I had read it, but that's probably 10 years ago, and I still haven't read any more, so it just didn't take flight, did it? I will read more Proust. I will get through the whole thing before my life is out. But I know there are people who just constantly reread him because it means so much to them. Yeah, okay, well, it didn't do that for me. I did not take flight, with it. So that's the right answer for that one. Prompt number 4, the emperor penguin is the most recognisable species. Is it? Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah. But the Adelie is everybody's favourite. Yeah, adorable. What's your favourite penguin classic? Oh, now, this was one of the reasons why I avoided doing this tag, because I thought, how can I choose? How can I possibly choose? But I can cheat now, because your favourite is always the one you're reading at the moment, isn't it? And at the moment, I'm reading Paradise Lost by John Milton with a little group of booktubers, Alan and Stephanie and Madeline, and we're having a lovely time reading this, and it is a joy. So this is my favourite this month. Question number 5. Penguin Classics began in 1946 with E.V. Ryan's translation of the Odyssey. What's your favourite book from 1946 or the 1940s? Wow. 1946, I've read quite a few books from 1946, and I think I have to say that my favourite would be Zorba the Greek, by Kazantzakis. It's tricky. There's other good ones that year. The Little White Horse by Elizabeth Goudge was a childhood favourite that was written in 1946. Comment in Moominland, yeah, anything by Tove Jansson is a good job, and I had a whole series of puffins of all the Moomin books. Well, I still do. Yeah, lots of good books, but that would be my 1946 choice. But when you open up the whole of the 1940s, well, that is an era of writing that I love, particularly probably like British writing from the 1940s. I've just read, there's so many goodies in that period. When push comes to shove, I managed to choose one. And what I chose was, I thought, well, I jolly well should choose a penguin. And this is the old style Penguin Modern Classics book, and it's Malcolm Lowry's Under the Volcano. And when it was new, it cost 5 shillings. There you go. And it's a very intense, difficult, but wonderful book. And if you haven't read it, I would strongly recommend it. I wonder if these days someone like Brian would call it Jude Brolit. I don't think so. It has a very unlikable main character, I suppose, who's basically an alcoholic, and it's probably quite autobiographical. Oh, it's probably like, nowadays we call it autofiction or something, wouldn't we? But he's a sort of a English gentleman who lives in Mexico and has gone to seed. and it's emotionally intense and just beautifully written. And yeah, a Ros recommendation for sure. Preferably in a copy that isn't falling to pieces. I'm sure there'd be a like Penguin Classic edition of it now. So, question number 6 is Penguin Classic tries to enshrine the classics of literature. Name some books that you'd like to see enshrined. Now, I have a feeling that some of the things that I'm thinking I'd like to be enshrined, because I don't have a Penguin Classic of them, may be now Penguin Classics, I don't know. But I think Penguin, yeah, it's, and I suppose the broad thought would be there's an awful lot of things from wider parts of the world that Penguin are just starting to kind of bring into their Penguin Classics, Penguin Modern Classics sort of library, as it were. But one thing that I think should be a Penguin Classic for sure is Vasily Grossman's Life and Fate. And I picked this because it's got that kind of it's that sort of chunky Russian, it's like kind of Tolstoy or Turgenev or Dostoevsky in its sort of scope and emotional range. Yeah, so should be a Penguin Classic. But also, I think Penguin could do more to recognise the like British women writers of the 20th century. And in a way, like people like sort of Virago and Persephone have sort of moved in and taken that territory because Penguin failed to. And I picked a random example, but I could have picked sort of quite a number. But I'm going to pick Elizabeth Taylor as the kind of writer that should be a Penguin Classic, and as far as I know, isn't yet. And it's this one is a Virago Modern Classic instead. But Penguin, if you're going to stand up for like the best, then go back to some of those 20th century women and bring out more of them. Now, the last thing I should do, in theory, is tag some people. Now, I can't remember who did it way first time round, and also this is the sort of tag that you're only going to want to do if you're a bit of a Penguin freak, I guess, like me. So the person I'm tagging is Steve to do some more visits to his Penguin Classics, please, pretty please. But also anyone else who enjoys a Penguin Classic, please, who didn't do it first time round, please consider yourself tagged.